I've always wanted to do this. Good evening. I'm Brenda Likens. I'm Mayor Pro Tem in for Tracy Markley, who is not available this evening. I would like to call to order the Gig Harbor City Council meeting for Monday, June 24th, 2023. The time is now 5:30 p.m. And I will start with a roll call. Councilmember Wook.
Here.
Councilmember Dorsett.
Here.
Councilmember Rodenberg.
Here.
I'm here. Councilmember Henderson.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
And Councilmember Barber.
Here.
All right, if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Before we begin this evening, this council meeting, we would like to recognize that we are gathered on not only the ancestral and traditional land of the Schwab Band of the Puyallup Tribe of Indians, but also on the site of one of the largest, longest standing historic villages of their people, the original inhabitants of the Gig Harbor area. Council, are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none. Do I go on to public comment now, Josh? Okay, so we are now going to accept public comment on consent agenda items and items not on the agenda tonight. And tonight we are talking about the fire district levy and the deed covenants with Gig Harbor Peninsula Fish. So if you're not speaking on those things, if you're in the audience, you can come forward now, state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. And there will be a timer up on the screen that you'll be able to see. So is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak today?
Gary. My name is Maureen Flanagan, and I live at 3212 Harborview Drive, Gig Harbor, Washington. This is a non-agenda item. What I'd like to speak about is the Pride in the Park event on the 24th of June. During the July 17th study session, a report on the event was not complete. I stood with 5 others expressing our belief that God loves us and all people and has a purpose for our lives. We quietly prayed for all in attendance that they not be deceived by gender-driven ideology. We had our pictures taken for this affront. We were heckled and called names by the event goers. We're lambasted with invectives of hate and intolerance by an atheist who came across the street to yell at us, scream at us. And we were called the bad people by a young woman with 2 small daughters. She came across the street to take our pictures and she pulled them away from us when we said, well, why are you teaching your kids to hate? We were there, and I'm not here to spread hatred towards any group. I don't have that in my heart. I don't have time for that in my heart. I'm not here to call anyone a sinner either. I'm the last one to do that, folks, the last one. What I'm hoping to do is educate how grouping works, especially with children. Children have no defense against trusted adults. They believe what they're told. It takes years to recover from the lies you've been told. Ask anyone who's ever been abused. It wouldn't be funny to you then. Many stopped to thank us for being there. Car horns were honked and drivers waved. Bikers revved their Harleys as they passed by. People stopped to pray with us for the children. One couple from Kansas said, you can see why you're here. We're staying on this side of the street. to the council members and Mayor Markley, if she was here, having been groomed as a child by my father and other relatives, started with a rape when I was 4. I know exactly what those children are experiencing and how grooming works and how it's always done. It's expressing love. And let me tell you, it's a lie. For the city to allow a group to celebrate their sexuality in such a manner and expose children to it, it's incomprehensible to me and wrong. Do not allow this in the future. Don't let our children be used as a justification for somebody else's sexuality. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone who is online who would like to speak this evening? If so, you can hit your raised hand button near the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 on your phone. Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Is there a motion, council, to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
There was lots of seconds, Josh. Just take your pick. So, okay. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstain. Okay, motion passes 7-0. There is no mayor's report tonight, but there is a city administrator report. And I forgot at the beginning to introduce the staff who are here tonight. So if you could do that really quickly, that would be great.
Oh, certainly. To my right is our esteemed city clerk, Josh Stecker. Our finance director, Dave Rodenbach, is to my left. Carl DeSimas, our community development director, is here. And Fred Douglas, our police lieutenant, is in the back, ensuring that we are all safe and protected. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. 3 quick items today. One is, I know there were a number of council members that attended a recent Washington Maritime, let me get this correct, Maritime Washington National Heritage Area at the Ed and Boat Brick House a number of months ago. And we heard a presentation on that national listing and how we could get involved and participate in that. And I'm happy to let council know that we applied for partnership with the group and we were awarded that last week. So we are officially a member of the Maritime Washington organization that is run by the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation through the National Park Service. And essentially what this does is they help preserve and interpret the Washington state's unique waterways and coasts, from our fishing heritage to sailboats, kayaking, how the native tribes use the land. They bring everyone together to help tell the story and show the importance of our waterways into how our state in particular developed. So they connect us with the maritime stories and experiences, support those who steward and interpret that based on our water heritage, and advocate for resources. And this is very important for us as we have Harbor Wild Watch, we have the Ed and Boat, the Gig Harbor Boat Shop, and the History Museum are just a few of our water-based places on the waterfront that tell our story in particular. And so we look forward to being a part of this and seeing how we can further our waterfront downtown in the future. Next quick item is a bit of housekeeping. We did have a work session this Thursday that has been moved to August 3rd. So I wanted to let the public know there will not be a work session this Thursday, and instead that will be on August 3rd. That has been updated on our website and put out onto our socials, but wanted to let everyone know that as well this evening. And lastly, on July 13th, we discussed the cultural access program and the potential for a 0.1% sales tax at your work session. And at that work session, you directed me to put together an ad hoc committee to look at that program, what that would entail going forward with all of the options, who could be involved, receive funding, et cetera. I'm happy to report I was able to meet last week with the History Museum Executive Director. We've come up with a list of organizations that could qualify for that sales tax funding. And so I will be putting together our first ad hoc meeting in August to talk about that and answer some of the questions that council had in that work session. Additionally, you received an email letter today from the Peninsula School District indicating their support of the program. And they will be asked to sit on that ad hoc committee that will explore council's questions. So that is moving forward, and wanted to report on that this evening. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so we will move on to our business items tonight. The first business item is Resolution 1287, expressing support for Pierce County Fire Protection District Number 5, Gig Harbor Fire and Medic 1, position number 1, titled Multi-Year Fire and Emergency Levy Lid Lift. The suggested motion is to move to approve Resolution 1287, and this report tonight comes from our City Clerk, Josh Stecker.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tempore, and good evening, Council. At our last council meeting, Council directed the staff to prepare a resolution in support of Proposition 1 that the Gig Harbor Fire has placed on the ballot for August 1st. This resolution is a resolution of support for that. Council has the opportunity to draft or adopt resolutions of support for ballot measures in accordance with the provisions of RCW 42-17A-555. Essentially, that says that council can adopt a resolution provided that it is at a noticed meeting and that equal opportunity is provided for both sides of the ballot measure to take public comment. So given that, the resolution is in the packet and before you, and if there are any questions, I can address those now.
Okay, council, are there any questions? Okay, I don't see any lights. So time for public comment. And if you're here in the audience, if you'd like to provide public comment, you can come forward now. No public comment tonight. Okay. If there is anybody online, if you'd like to make public comment, you could raise your hand or press *9 on your phone. Okay, seeing no public comment, we will go on to council deliberation and action. Councilmember Barber.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I believe that we need our fire and medic personnel today more than ever. And from talking with firefighters in the city, passage of this levy means their equipment will stay up to date and their response times as fast as we've grown to expect them. This is one area where cutting costs is not an option, and therefore I support Resolution 1287 and move to approve it.
So the motion is made and seconded. Councilmember Wook, did you have any comments?
I do. You know, it's a wonderful opportunity when our fire department comes to us and we have opportunities to support resolutions, and we have done this in the past. And, you know, it's what is predictable is preventable. And we try to help our fire department and support them when they save our lives. This is a group, part of the first responders who get to us when we need them the most. And it's an honor to be able to support them and their needs. So thank you for being here tonight, Chief Doan, and good luck on this vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Martin.
Just a minor edit in the document that I'm looking at. It's a suggested motion move to approve resolution 1286, but yet we reference 1287. So it's just a typo. I just want to note it for the record. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. I just want to say I echo the comments made by Councilmember Barber and Councilmember Wook. The firefighters and the work that they do is, you know, the first responders that are there to help you when there's an emergency, an illness, a fire, but they do so much more. They do a lot of EMS calls. And in hearing Chief Doan's comments prior on this initiative, the fire trucks are aged well beyond what is a normal year. Staff is needing to staff up in response to the increase in population. So I wholeheartedly agree with this resolution today. Thanks. Okay, so are there any other comments? No? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We'll just do a group vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay. All those abstain. Okay, motion passes 7-0. Good luck, Chief Doan. Okay, and our second, moving on, business item today is amendment to the deed covenants with the Gig Harbor Peninsula Fish. The suggested motion is moved to authorize the mayor to sign a deed amendment with the Gig Harbor Peninsula Fish. And this report tonight comes from our city administrator, Katrina Knudsen.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The city deeded property or conveyed property to Fish Food Bank in December of 2018 for the purposes of constructing a food bank facility. The subject property that we are discussing is at the east end terminus of Hunt Street, where it abuts Highway 16, so very close to Peninsula Lutheran Church at the end of Hunt Street. The deed, the city and the food bank worked out restrictive covenants on how the property could and should be used, as well as a time frame for development. Currently, as the deed states, if a food bank is not built on the property or substantial permits are not submitted within 5 years, then the property would revert back to city ownership. As you know, the food bank did not end up building their food bank location, the new food bank location at their property on Hunt Street. And we do know they have a wonderful location down off of Burnham Drive that they are doing fantastic work, as noted through a number of our partnerships. They are still getting, as we understand it, accustomed to the new site, filling that out with food items as well as items for folks to wear and all of the other programs that they utilize. And they're working to get most of those off the ground and running. And they are not currently in a place to fundraise for nor design and plan for an additional food bank structure. City administration has met with the Fish Food Bank. Councilmember Rodenberg was met with us a couple of times, noting that he also supports the food bank there. And when we met together, essentially the food bank would not be able to put plans to develop the site within 5 years. And so through negotiations, we've decided to bring this deed back to you. Essentially what it does is it would extend the deed out an additional 5 years to provide Fish a total of 10 years from the initiation of that, the deed. So essentially these 5 years have passed. They're seeking an additional 5 years, to which we are recommending those 5 years. And that is located within the deed that's attached to the council bill. And again, staff is recommending that council approve this and allow the mayor pro tem to sign the deed amendment. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Okay, Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, City Administrator. A question is, does the Fish Food Bank still have interest in that property? I mean, is it something they're planning on doing later? Or is there some point where we're going to say, okay, we'll let the property come back to the city?
Well, currently, as written, the property would revert back to us at the end of this year. However, the food bank, noting the need in our community for things like food, counseling services, clothing, toy collection during the holidays, that they're just not sure what they need the space for right now. And so if we were to ask them to substantially design and construct something on that property that was food bank, they feel that they don't have enough information as to what that would be at this time. But it's my understanding of meeting with the executive director from Peninsula Fish that it's that property will be needed in the future. They're just not exactly sure for the exact purpose.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Martin.
Thank you. Question for clarification. In section 3 of the document, it says deposition of the property. And I'm just trying to get a little clarification of we have an opportunity where if they're not going to use it, it would revert back to the city, if I understand correctly, and with your statements, city administrator. But then there's also 3.c, which is the city's first option to purchase. So if an outside entity, or another entity, I should say, wants to purchase that land, then we have first right of refusal. Just a little confused about that, where we're deeding this property to Fish Food Bank, which I think is a wonderful opportunity for everybody. But I just want to make sure I'm understanding how this whole process might work. And that, 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now, Fish Food Bank might say, dollars might be more important for us for our existing facility rather than building something new. And then the city has to decide whether or not we think that property is worth purchasing and what happens to the fund. So just trying to get a little clarity there. You may not be able to do that this evening, certainly, but I just was wondering about that. Thanks.
It's a great question. I know our city attorney is on with us, and I will defer to him on this section.
Yes, absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So the section 3 is disposition of the property, but inherent in that section is that a certificate of occupancy has been issued. So that implies that they have built the structure and are utilizing the property for their structure, and then they choose to leave. And so that's what that option to purchase in 3C is speaking to, whereas section 4 is speaking to if they haven't done anything with the property after those 5 years, and that's what's being extended now. And so we've got two scenarios where if approved tonight, adding 5 years for their window to do something with the property. And if they don't, at the end of that additional 5 years, it would automatically revert back to the city. If they do use the property, that section 3 comes into play. And if they leave after they've started to use the property, have a certificate of occupancy, then there's a certain flow of what could happen to that property in that scenario.
Great, thank you. That's great information. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we will now open public comment for this agenda item. If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to speak, you can come forward now. Okay, seeing none, if there's anybody online that would like to speak to this agenda item, you can raise your hand with the raise hand button or press *9 on your phone. Okay, seeing none, we will begin council deliberation and action. Councilmember Rodenberg.
I just wanted to clarify that although they're calling it a property, there's actually 2 parcels. So there's always the option that they could build on one and not the other. So both of those scenarios could come into play. So there are 2. And just for the record, the city only had that in their possession for a week or so. That was actually property that was negotiated to give to the food bank through a third party from Pierce Transit. So Gig Harbor was only supposed to act as a pass-through, just so people have a little bit of that background. And if there's no further, I'll move that we pass this motion as written.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember Barber. Is there any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Abstain. Okay, motion passes 7-0. And tonight we have a staff report. We have the quarterly budget report brought to us tonight by our finance director, Dave Rodenbach.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. We're in the same situation we have been for the last 6 months. The city's running really well. As you can see here, we're at 25% to our revenues, and that's right where we'd want to be. It's a little disconcerting for me because we've always been well ahead of that because we've been kind of a boom town, but we're right where we should be revenue-wise. However, development revenues have fallen off the table. We're like 30% of where we'd want to be with building permits and those type revenues. We're 70% down on like impact fees, traffic impact fees, GFCs, and those type revenues. But we're holding our own. We've been able to reallocate and do all of the capital projects because of the large beginning fund balances that we've had in some of our special funds that are dedicated to capital projects. So nothing service-wise or function-wise or programmatically has fallen off the table. We're working through the detail analysis of the forecast. This and what I'm saying could bring up a lot of questions, and I don't really have any answers right now. I can just tell you that the latest distributions we've received haven't turned the corner yet. We're still edging downward. And we're probably going to have a monthly report on this from here on out once we get a good base forecast for where we're going to be. And we'll sort of, we'll be able to tweak it pretty quick and give you a monthly update on where we're going and when we turn the corner. But for now, we're able to come really close to our projected and budgeted ending fund balance in the general fund. So there's no need to really worry about the sky is falling or anything like that. We're kind of holding our own. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to try and answer or get information for you if I don't have it tonight.
Councilmember Wook.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation and the information. Are we dipping into reserves at all?
We always dip, usually we dip into reserves, and dipping into reserves I classify as using fund balance. And so we started this year with about almost an $8 million general fund beginning fund balance. We try to, our target is roughly 2.5 to 3.5 million. You know, so we started this year or the budget process with the intent of spending down some of that fund balance. And what you want to spend your fund balance down on are one-time projects, capital projects. You obviously don't want to spend it down on operations because you'll be in trouble. So yes, we are spending down fund balance, but on purpose. Oh, you're talking about the strategic reserve?
Well,
have not touched that.
That was my second question.
We have not touched that, and we at this point have no intention to touch that.
Oh, good.
Right.
Are we also asking questions about the quarterly report?
I may be able to answer some of that. Yes, we are. And the ones I can't answer, I think we have a couple department heads here that may be able to step in. Otherwise, we'll take down your questions and get back to you.
So basically, I think I just want to have comments and compliments on this report. And if anyone in our community wants to know what our city is doing, all they have to do is look at this report, because it has every project, every budgeted project from now until the end of 2024 on here. And I know the folks who've been caring so much about Peacock Hill and the street there will find this on this report. So it's a great report, and it just says how busy this city is. So do we look on schedule for being able to complete these reports or these projects at the end of 2024?
The funding won't slow us down. Let's put it that way.
Okay, good enough.
Some other thing could come up, but certainly the funding won't slow us down.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody who provided information for this report. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Barber.
Yes, thank you. I share your concern, and I know my colleagues share your concern about the decrease in revenue, and appreciate the work that everyone is doing to address those issues. I'm particularly concerned potentially about the delay in the hiring of the risk and safety program manager, and wanted to ask probably City Administrator Knudsen if you could address any impact or concerns you have about the delay on that position. It sounds pretty important, and I think our community members would recognize that as an important position. Thank you.
Yes, as we've shared with council at previous times work sessions, there are a number of positions that we're holding off on hiring right now due to the revenues that we're seeing that are lower than what we were projecting when we approved the 2023-2024 budget. As Dave mentioned, namely, well, we've seen reductions in sales tax that are continue to decline in larger numbers, development revenue, as well as REIT. So what that does is it affects our general fund revenue. So any position that is reliant on general fund revenue at this time, we're not freezing, but we are considering whether or not to hire those positions. I think as is prudent and fiscally responsible as what our positions call for. We did mention that there are a number of positions within community development that in particular review development permits as well as to conduct inspections. With the reduction in number of permits that we're receiving, we are holding off on those positions while we figure out what's kind of going on with development. And those positions were vacant, so it's not, we didn't have to eliminate any person. We're just holding on the refilling of that. There are a number of other positions, such as the risk and safety position, that do have a general fund component to that. I have asked our HR director and finance director to provide information to me on how that position is broken out fund-wise. We do know that some of that will come from the utilities because that's where a lot of the risk and safety training things need to occur. However, prior to undertaking a permanent expenditure as is any new position, we're analyzing whether or not our current revenue sources can sustain that. And so what I will say is that we have folks in HR as well as Josh, our city clerk, and folks in public works, as well as our building official, who collectively have always come together to conduct risk and safety work. We're going to continue to do that while we analyze the right time to hire the risk and safety position.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Martin.
Thank you. Finance Director Rodenbach, would you, for all of us here today, just talk a little bit about our cash and investments? I think that's a pretty healthy amount that we have. And it's something that you and I chatted about this morning. And I think it's important for all of us just to hear from you on this, and shows the due diligence that you do on a regular basis to make sure that the city is fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Sure, I'm happy to. And this is not anything I have kind of anecdotal. We generally for several years have carried about a $60 million balance. And this would be on 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th page of the report where it lists composition of cash and investments. And we're right now at almost 66 million. And so that number's crept up over the last year, despite our other revenues being down. Now, remember, that has many different components in it. It has the ARPA funding in it that came in to the tune of $3 million. It's got HBZ, it's got TBD, Transportation Benefit District, it's got real estate excise tax, it's got utilities. So it's not money that we can just access. But with that balance, that's why I can so easily say that money will not hold us down on completing any of the capital projects or the budgeted projects that we have, because those are a conglomeration of different capital and targeted funding sources for these different projects.
Thank you. I think it's important, right, for all of us to look at this holistically and stuff. And I really appreciate that staff's looking at this and saying, you know, we're seeing a decline in one part of our budget. We need to be concerned and be a little cautious, tap the brakes, so to speak. And yet on the other side of the budget, we have many good things that are still occurring. So thank you for that picture. Appreciate it.
I think your comment, and as Dave, Finance Director Rodenbach, provides these bits of information, we do so in transparency, both for you as well as the public. We feel confident in the 2023-24 budget that that we are in a good place to end up, as Dave said, right where we're supposed to be. There's certain actions that we're having to take in the interim to ensure that we get there. And that is part of our job to do that. And we will partner with the council on any other decision budgetary wise as any other potentially unforeseen or foreseen item may occur in regard to our revenue. Back to Councilmember Wook, it just occurred to me Jeff Langhelm is on vacation, and I wanted to let you know that in terms of engineering staffing, we do have offer letters out for both engineering tech as well as an associate engineer. And so fingers crossed, we can get public works engineering up to full staff and get ready for the amount of construction that likely will occur next year with all of the projects out under design right now. So we do want the public to know, and thank you for asking those questions, that although we're not out there constructing anything large this year, our staff are very, very busy, as you noted in the budget document, designing sidewalks for improvements and commercial fishing home port, parks, sports complex. And so a lot of that construction, fortunately or unfortunately, will occur in 2024. So be a lot of public outreach next year on how to mitigate those construction impacts. But the money is definitely going towards the projects that council directed.
Terrific, thank you. I wanted to echo some of the comments that were made, how helpful this document is. And just again, echo the movement. I believe you did it last year when you took several of the funds and put them into those long-term CDs, the earning the interest rate. That was a really smart move for our city. And I am very appreciative because those funds, you know, have grown appreciably. So thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. So no other questions at this time. So it's now time for council report and comments. Councilmember Wook.
Thank you. It was about a week ago that we were wrapping up the 37th Peninsula Art Festival downtown. It was a wonderful event. Went very well. It was attended well by the public and the wonderful artists. I want to thank everyone at Gig Harbor, the staff who made that possible and helped to make it possible. We had an LTAC grant, which is always helpful. So thank you for that. To Scott Keeley, the Special Events Coordinator Extraordinaire. Thank you very much for Scott for all your help. To Public Works and those officials who got the parking signs out or the no parking signs out. Thank you for doing that because it makes a huge difference. We actually had a pretty clean street. I don't think we towed anyone this year. And that's always helpful when the cars are gone. To Lieutenant Douglas and to Detective Federici for their daytime security patrols and keeping everybody safe and no problems down there. So it was a good event. And thanks to the city for their participation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Well, I have a council report. I wanted to let council know I attended the Pierce County Regional Council meeting last Thursday, July 20th, and we heard a update from Pierce Transit by Ryan Wheaton, who is one of the officials at Pierce Transit. And he shared with us that Pierce Transit is currently still only at 80% of pre-COVID level service. The biggest issues, like so many, are decreased service. They only have 82% of their operator positions filled, as well as they're having an increase in more positions going unfilled in their maintenance staff and several people leaving the maintenance staff. They're working with the board to create a robust recruitment and retention initiative. They're looking for an increased need for drivers. Additionally, in the upcoming years, because they have a large number of drivers who will become eligible for retirement with the aging workforce. And they said this is a trend that's happening nationwide. Pierce Transit is focusing their outreach in the next few months. They're going to be going around to communities doing listening sessions and presenting to any group. If you know of a group who may want to participate, I have contact information for them, and they said they are more than happy to come out and talk with any group. And they said they will do it both live or by Zoom. They're looking for innovative solutions. Some of the questions that I forwarded from our council were about smaller electric vehicles, different opportunities. They want to bring some of those to the board in November, and any changes that they recommend would become effective the following March 2024. The planning department of Pierce Transit also mentioned that they are available to meet with any city planning department regarding comp plan updates, and that they can provide you collaboration and support. In response to Gig Harbor specifically, they're working to get service from meetings that they've had with the city officials, with TCC and St. Anthony Hospital, and they're looking at potential solutions using an on-demand runner system for both facilities, and more as an option. More to come. I see Katrina, or City Administrator Knudsen shaking her head. We also heard about the the Transportation Community Center Rural Town Centers and Corridors Program funding from Clint Ritter, the TCC chair. There's $6 million in federal funding available for this grant competition. The Pierce County Regional Council had 3 applications and they could forward 3 onto the Puget Sound Regional Council, and they were from Bonnie Lake, Ording, and a Pierce County roundabout in Lake Bay on the Key Pen. All 3 of those subjects got forwarded on to the Puget Sound Regional Council. We also heard from the PCRC work group on the county-wide funding process, but they decided that a discussion and action on this was going to be deferred to our September meeting. So just to let you know about that. And then we heard a brief report on a regional safety summit and Safe Streets grants program that was presented to the Puget Sound Regional Council, as well as a presentation by Commerce and the South Sound Housing Affordability Program, and information on missing middle housing grants, recognition for the Puget Sound Regional Council Youth Summer Planning Program that happens each Friday in July, and they encouraged every community to put any young people forward to that program for next year. And that is all I had from that. And I just thought I would also mention, I went to an event for the Gig Harbor Land Conservation Sunday evening. And the goal of the Gig Harbor Land Conservation is to do some pretty robust fundraising so that they increase their coffers, so that should a property come available, such as the one that recently was discussed over off of Hunt Street, that they would have more funds available to make a more robust offer in the future. So I just thought I would let everybody know about those plans. So I don't see any other lights. The announcement of upcoming meetings is in your packet, as well as the 2-year strategic plan. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
We're all ready.